Welcome to Parlay TV.
Plenty of things look easy at first. Skydiving, lion taming. From the comfort of your armchair, all sorts of risks look easy as
Cristiano Ronaldo, Diogo Jota, and Bruno Fernandes literally
blew Russia off the park in a clinical display of attacking football.
Wow.
Sorry, what did you say, Kobe?
Wow, bro.
Let's break it down.
I am Pat Mayo, and I'm here to give you the best pick at the top of the board. The best bet, if you will.
So I'm going to go with just under 25 for Middleton here.
Welcome, everybody, to Layin the Points with Luca Rosano. I'm your host, Luca Rosano, back with another show, and we got a lot to get to on this edition of the show. We're going to be going through a very highly entertaining March Madness game last night, the national championship game, closing out what has been an incredible March Madness tournament. And then I'm going to give you some of my best picks for tonight, as we're going to be looking at the Raptors matchup against the Hawks and the Leafs matchup against the Florida Panthers. And then I'll give you my best bet of the night. But we're actually going to pick things up here at the start of the show. And we are going to talk about the Parlays Event last night that went down at the Rec Room. And I just got to say, the parlay delivered. And I'm not just saying that because I work here, but the group worked tirelessly to put on a very good event last night to officially welcome sports betting here in the province of Ontario. It was a 4-hour event, and there were a lot of cool things. We saw many people from the industry gather in an actual in-person event, which was nice. Obviously, everybody's tired of Zoom calls. Everybody's tired of these online meetings. So to actually have an in-person event as we're still battling the pandemic was really, really nice, as we had many live shows that took place over the course of the night. We did 3-point lines live. We did gambling on hockey live. A couple of the other parlay hosts had some shows as well. Fast Money was live. And then we had some special guests do some shows of their own. And it was just really cool to see the industry coming together for something that is very lucrative and something that really has a lot of potential in Ontario and really everywhere. And that's sports betting. And it's crazy because now that I'm working in sports betting, I'm starting to see how the industry is growing by the day. And if you were to ask me 10 years ago when I first started betting recreationally, if I thought this would become a career path for many, including myself, I wouldn't have never believed you. But that is the reality now. It is such a big industry, and it is becoming popular by the second, that I think it's only inevitable that it's going to become as big here in Canada as it has been in the United States. And it's been a long time coming. A lot of people have been betting behind the scenes, if you will, for a very long time. And now that we officially have this implementation here in Ontario, I think for longtime bettors like myself, that is very exciting. And it's just going to further gain popularity and interest for many people, whether they bet for fun or bet legitimately, because there are also some bettors out there who bet full time. I mean, Harley for the parlay is one of those guys that he's a hardcore sports bettor. So I feel like now is such a great time for sports betting, because you have the diehards and you have the people who bet recreationally, but there's that connection between both sides, creating just such a big buzz amongst this industry. So it was a really cool event. I had a really good time. It was great to connect with people, and it just shows you a glimpse of what sports betting can become in Ontario and in Canada. And on that note, the parlay is going to have another great event that I highly recommend attending, and that's going to be tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you're a basketball fan, there's no excuse why you shouldn't be here. Sports fans too. I mean, this is going to be a great event. A lot of big people are going to be in the building for this one. I'm talking about Inside the Green Room with Danny Green and Harrison Stanford. They're doing their live podcast at the Rec Room, same place as yesterday. Parlay is hosting the event, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can get your tickets at theparlay.com/events. I'm going to be there. Our team's going to be there. A very special guest is also going to be there, but I can't reveal his name on the show. You're going to have to see for yourself in person. But it's definitely an event you don't want to miss. There's going to be a lot of events coming. We got another great event on Friday. Mike Wilner is going to be teeing up the Blue Jays game before the Jays have their home season opener at the Rogers Center. It's crazy with everything that's been going on with March Madness and the NBA postseason race and the NHL winding down. I totally forgot. Baseball's back this Friday, folks. So there's going to be another special event for that as well on Friday, hosted by the Parlay at the Rec Room. So again, you can get your tickets, attend these events while they're here. Go to theparlay.com/events. You definitely don't want to miss out. A lot of great live events coming your way, which is great, especially after the 2 years that we've had stuck inside. Okay, we're going to get into some sports talk now, and we're going to start national championship game, man. It was the only basketball game on last night on the men's side. I mean, the NBA didn't have any games, paving the way for everybody to tune into this one. And this game delivered. I mean, if there was ever going to be a game that just encompassed such an incredible March Madness as a whole, this was the game. Going down to the wire, last minute, anybody had a chance to win. But the biggest story was Kansas's comeback. The Kansas Jayhawks, they won this game in exciting fashion. But it came at the result of UNC pulling an Atlanta Falcons on everybody and blowing a lead. Kansas pulled off the biggest second half comeback in NCAA men's championship history, overcoming a 15-point halftime deficit to beat the Tar Heels 72-69. And it's their first national championship since 2008. I had to think about it for a second. I'm like, was it really that long that Kansas hasn't won anything? It was that long. It was a long time coming for this Bill Self-led Kansas Jayhawks team. And you look at how Kansas erased this 15-point deficit. They did it effortlessly. I mean, if you compare this to an NBA type of comeback, they were down by 15, and they basically erased the 15-point deficit in the third quarter alone. The fourth quarter was fair game. So they erased it quickly, and it spoke volumes to what this Kansas team was all about and how they've been this March Madness run. We've seen them before have slow starts, but they are so good at zoning in and making second half adjustments, especially that defense, and getting back into games. We saw it against Miami, and we saw it again in this win over the Tar Heels. Now, what really hurt North Carolina down the stretch here was their limited depth. And you look at Hubert Davis, first-time coach for the Tar Heels, could have made history as becoming the second ever coach to win the championship in his first season as a head coach of a program. But his starters were gassed. They were banged up and they were battered. His starters played 35-plus minutes during these tournament games, and it caught up to them. You look at star center Armando Baycott. He suffered an ankle injury in the closing minutes of the game against Duke, and then he re-aggravated that injury again in the final minutes of this game. You could tell it was not a pretty sight. He was very much in a lot of discomfort. Brady Manick, too, took a massive elbow to his skull against Kansas. And Caleb Love, he had a bit of an off night. And maybe you can credit that to him tweaking his ankle. He did not look like the same Caleb Love that helped carry this team to this spot. So the minutes, the constraint, the fatigue, I think, caught up to this Tar Heels team. I mean, for them to have such a big collapse on that stage, under those circumstances, knowing that you're just 20 minutes away with a 15-point lead from pulling off one of the great stories in all of college basketball history, and you simply let up like that, the minutes got to this team. And you look at Kansas, they are not a team that's going to overpower you with A-listers. They are the third straight men's national champion to have a roster with no five-star recruits, but plenty of upperclassmen, which shows the bigger picture here. We've seen the previous champions now get to the championship game, win the actual championship, because they have teams that have been together for a couple of seasons. Gone are the days of teams just forming for one season and winning it all. This was another prime example of when you have that continuity and that chemistry of guys who have been around the program for a couple of years, those are the teams who are starting to win. chemistry is a big thing, especially with the NCAA March Madness tournament. So this was very big for the Kansas Jayhawk program. Like I said, long time coming, since 2008, and that's a very long time for a Kansas team that every single season they're really good. I mean, they have their rare off seasons, but this is a team that you usually expect to see them in the dance, and you usually expect to see them as a high seed. So this was a big win for them. They're going to be partying all night, especially, well, they have been partying all night. They're going to be partying all day, I should say, especially since they came back in epic fashion. And if you're North Carolina, I mean, it's tough. It really is. Like, you had such a great run. And what hurts even more is not that you lost, it's the way you lost. Knowing that you had this game in your back pocket, essentially, it stings. And you hate to see it when talking about sports in general. When a team is on the doorstep of greatness and they let their guard down for just a second and the other team comes coming back, worst thing you want to see it. And unfortunately, the Tar Heels are going to be on that side of history. So that's concluding a great March Madness tournament. I mean, I had a tear in my eye watching One Shining Moment, which always delivers, because it just amazes me how fast these tournaments go, man. It's like you look forward to them all year. It finally happens. It's like a sprint. And next thing you know it, tournament's done. We're on to the next. So, yeah, looking forward to the next March Madness tournament. It's going to be even crazier, you have to think. Okay, let's get into some predictions now. Of course, laying the points with Luca Rosano wouldn't be a show without me actually laying the points and giving you some of my picks and best bets of the night. And we're going to talk about Leafs Panthers. So first and foremost, I want to say this. I got my pick right last night. I actually took the points. I went Leafs plus 1.5 on the puck line. I even told them to take them on. I told you to take them on the money line, and both of those cashed in. The Leafs won in impressive fashion over the Lightning. And that was a matchup that I said I would not want to see the Leafs take in the first round. Well, they proved me wrong and many people wrong who thought the same thing. Now, the Leafs will be in action tonight against the Panthers. Florida is the best team in the East, and they enter Tuesday's game with a near perfect home record. The Panthers have gone 28-6-0 in Florida this season. That is absolutely absurd. Considering this team's going to have home ice advantage throughout, that's a big thing in their corner. Now, for this game, I'm actually not going to make a pick on the puck line or the money line. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. I'm going to make a pick with the over-under. So it's almost always a goal fest when the Panthers and Leafs do battle, and I expect the same to happen tonight. Here are some betting trends that suggest you bet the over, which is why I love the over in this spot. The over is 4-0 in the Maple Leafs' last 4 games as a road underdog. The over is 9-1-2 in the Panthers' last 12 games against the Atlantic. And the over is 4-0-1 in the last 5 meetings of these two teams hooking up. Now, Leafs-Panthers, you look at this game tonight, all of the makings of another high-scoring affair. Toronto, in particular, should be able to get this game over due to the fact that Florida is going to be missing one of their best D-men in Aaron Ekblad. And the Panthers are only 15th in the PK percentage and face Toronto's lethal power play unit. So both these offenses, I think, are going to get theirs tonight. So bet over 7 goals for this game. That is my best play for Leafs Panthers. I'm not touching the puck line. I'm not touching the money line. It can go either way. Very tough to gauge when you have 2 stellar teams. But I'm going over 7 goals. I think this will hit, and then some. All right, so that's one Toronto sports team covered. Let's talk about the other one, a game that I'm going to be watching very closely tonight, as I'm a big Raptors fan. You already know that. Hawks-Raptors. Let's make some predictions for tonight's game. So this is a very big game. Raptors still aren't fully clear out of that 7th spot on that play-in. The math still suggests that the Cavaliers could oversee the Raptors as they're only 2.5 games back. And the Cavs actually have a very favorable matchup tonight against the Magic. So if the Raptors lose and the Cavs win tonight, makes things interesting. Raptors would then be only 1.5 games up with, I believe, 3 games left. So if the Raptors win tonight, that's huge. It almost ensures them at that point, mathematically, I believe, that they get a top 6 spot. So they are going to be bringing their guns tonight. Now, before we get into this prediction, let's just go through some the injury report, if you will. So Bogdanovich for the Hawks, questionable with a knee injury. Collins is still out with that foot injury. Gallinari, fellow Italian, he's questionable with a knee injury. And OG thigh, questionable for the Raptors. Now, let me start by saying this. The Raptors are 4-point favorites tonight. I was a little bit surprised at the line, only because the Hawks are one of the hottest teams right now. They've won 5 games in a row. And this is a team that's very quietly looking like a team you do not want to see in the play-in or even the first round of the playoffs, especially if you're one of those higher seed teams. So what's my pick for tonight? For as good as the Hawks are playing right now, for as hot as they are, Trae Young is that guy. I'm laying the points, which is what the title of the show suggests. Give me the Raptors -4. And the reason being, the Hawks, not a very good road team. 4-13 against the spread on the road versus teams with a winning record. 1-7 against the spread as a 3 to 4.5 point underdog. And the Raptors are 13-7 against the spread at home versus winning teams. I love my stats, as you can tell. Atlanta is also 27th in defensive three-point percentage, while the Raptors, they are shooting at 47.3% from behind the arc versus the Hawks this season. In the last stat here, the Hawks are just 4-11 against the spread in their last 15 visits to Toronto. And this is the one that got me and won me over. Trae Young is 0-3 straight up in his 3 career trips north of the border. If that did not sell you, I don't know what will. Take the Raptors tonight -4. Don't second guess it. They'll get it done. Okay. And we're going to end here with my best bet of the night. I gave you 2 bets that I'm pretty confident with. And this third one, I might be the most confident in. We're going to be looking at the Miami Heat taking on the Charlotte Hornets. The Heat, 5.5 point favorites. Now, Luca, why are you touching this game? The Heat are going to have so many guys listed as questionable. Well, the Heat are one of the best teams in the NBA with the next man up mentality that the Raptors made oh so famous. This is a team. They're showing their depth. And they got depth on steroids, man. I mean, this was a team that relied on that depth in a big win against the Raptors on Sunday without Jimmy Buckets. And the Heat actually clinched the first seed in the East with a win tonight. So that's their motivation to come out and win this game. And you look at the Hornets, they're such an inconsistent team. You don't know if they're going to reel off an impressive win like they did over the Nets or come off a blowout loss like they did against the Sixers. It was a miserable loss. 30-point blowout to the 76ers. I don't care who you are. If you're losing to teams by 30 points, that's a red flag. And you look at the Heat in this matchup, they have handily won all 3 prior meetings against the Hornets this season by average margin of victory of 12 points. And lastly, the Heat, they are an older team, but when they do have their fresh legs behind them, they are one of the best teams against the spread. They are 10-4-1 against the spread over the last 15 with a day's rest. So even though they might be missing some players tonight, take the Heat -5.5 to have their way with the Hornets as they've done all season long. And right now, the Heat are looking dangerous again. Don't look now. They've won a lot of games in a row against very good opponents. And this is going to be a team coming in with a heap of steam come playoff time. So just to recap of my picks for tonight, I like Leafs, Panthers over 7 goals at -110. I like the Raptors at -4 over the Hawks at -110. And I like the Miami Heat -5.5 against the Hornets at -110. I'm laying the points tonight. We'll see if that bodes well for me. But overall, that will conclude another edition of Laying the Points with Luca Rosano as we live stream every single day at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the Parlays social media channels. You can find this podcast at Apple Podcasts. You can find this show on YouTube, Twitter Live, theparlay.com. You definitely don't want to miss it. And that will do it for me. As always, thank you so much for watching. This is Luca Rosano signing off, and I'll catch you all again on the same show tomorrow. Have a good one.